Hi, I'm Kim, and you're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before we get going with this video, I'd like to take a moment to thank Candace very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Thank you, Candace. I think we all understand the meaning of the word healing and what healing means, whether that's from a surgery, whether that's from a horribly traumatic experience. Healing makes sense to most people. But for victims of narcissistic abuse, healing takes on a whole new dimension, very unique, and I want to talk about that today. Victims most certainly recognize that the narcissist is toxic. They most certainly recognize that they've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from, humiliated, smear campaigned. They get it. They understand all of it. Yet so often victims find themselves missing this horrendous creature, longing for this horrendous creature. And this makes healing from narcissistic abuse very unique. Why do sane, rationally thinking, logical, sound of mind individuals find themselves loving an abusive narcissist, longing to have that horrible creature in their lives? They know exactly what it is. They know how it felt to be with them, yet they long for it. So often victims set themselves up for further abuse by refusing to go no contact, leaving the portal of communication open. And often I've heard that people feel saddened or disappointed because they haven't been hoovered yet. There's no simple explanation. In fact, there is a grouping of reasons why this happens to people. So we can't depend on one path of healing to free us from this sense of duty to the narcissist. Quite often, people are overcome with guilt because they left this narc or refused to give the narc more money or whatever it is. I mean, there's a tremendous sense of guilt, of desire to help these things, even though they know that this rotten thing's been plotting against them and intentionally harming them, in fact, delighting in their demise. The reason there's no simple way to heal is because there was nothing simple about the abuse. The abuse was all-encompassing, very complex, and well calculated. So when you're planning a healing strategy, and that's what I think I did, is I could see that there was all these areas of my life that had been damaged, filthied up, dirty, crushed. So I needed to develop paths to each of those unique incidents. Now, when you consider how all-encompassing narcissistic abuse is, it attacks you on an emotional level, on a mental level, spiritual level, psychologically. It's all-consuming, and healing, in my opinion, has to be broken down into channels to address each of these issues. These are really simple and really easy to understand. For example, financial abuse. Narcs are tremendously financially abusive, and they do believe that your stuff is their stuff. So it's real easy for them to extort money from people and drain people's finances. So once you've identified one area of abuse as being financial abuse, well, that avenue to resolve that issue is going to be to solve your financial problems. Now, that may require you to get a new job or a second job or get to work at all. Many people are incapacitated from the abuse, and employment becomes a real challenge. But you can see that singular type of abuse. It was financial abuse. And the solution to that is going to be to get yourself out of debt and to restore your credit rating and to restore your finances. That seems fairly self-explanatory. You start looking at the more covert, the more insidious types of abuse, the psychological attack, the emotional attack, the smear campaigns, and now you find yourself in a situation where you've got to somehow override all these horrendously horrible lies that have been told about you. When I started looking at all the areas of abuse, and I started to create channels for healing, for example, a separate category for the physical outcome of the abuse. Now, This type of abuse is definitely going to cause stress, which is going to reduce a person's immune system, which is going to absolutely open the floodgates for illness and disease. So I had to really take a look at how incapacitated I'd become physically. I was ill. My hair was falling out, my nose was bleeding, my hands were shaking, and I was stuttering. So I had to look at my health as a completely separate channel. Juicing. I started juicing like a fiend. Now, we only eat organic food and vegan for the most part, so I really had to take a look at that and how I could increase my vitamin intake and how I could improve my health. Now, I will say I do believe the biggest game changer for me when it came to my physical health was going no contact. You shut that portal of abuse, and that created an opportunity for me to really focus on my health without that constant bombardment of abuse coming in and causing me to become sick all over again. So no contact and really high vitamin-rich diets really helped with that. So often, and me included, people will say my entire life is ruined. It's beyond hope. My life is ruined. Nothing will ever be the same again. Now, when you look out at the big picture, oh man, it is an ocean of destruction. Chaos, insanity, madness. Yes, it's huge. The picture is huge. But when you start to break this down into categories and you start to create individual avenues to that situation, it makes it much more manageable. No, we're not going to heal from this huge big picture in one day. But when you look at everything and encapsulate it, isolate it, then it becomes a series of much smaller issues versus one massive picture of destruction. The psychological abuse for me was quite challenging. I had been told so many times what a loser I was, how stupid I was, how fucked up I was, how I needed medication and I should be in a psych ward. Could you imagine? So that I had to override with my own internal voice. These voices would come up, this residual crap, this word vomit that had been coming out of Trevor's mouth had to be overridden with a new narrative. And when these things would come up for me and I would think, oh, I can't do it, or no, I'm not good enough, I would have to say, whoa, stop the train. I am good enough. If I just apply myself, I know I could do it. And I had to keep compounding the negative narrative that I'd been hearing with a new, more positive narrative. I don't think there is one all-encompassing path to healing. I think we have to compartmentalize each of the aspects of the abuse, whether it was impacting your health. I do believe there's a clear path and understanding to improving our health. We all get that. If it's financial abuse, we understand that and identify that as a separate compartment and how we would address that. And I think by breaking it down into compartments, I was able to create avenues to each of those issues and address them one by one. I think two of the biggest stumbling blocks to healing is going to be the lack of validation and the discard, like that feeling of abandonment, like just dumped, kicked to the curb, that feeling that there's no closure. I see these two things as real stumbling blocks, and I do believe it was this looking for closure or looking to be validated that caused me to go back so many times. Though I am unhappy with the lack of validation that I got from Trevor, it is what it is. It just is what it is. And to be honest with you, I don't need that horrendously disgusting turd of a man to validate me. That's the reality of it. And as far as closure goes, I created the closure. I don't ever want to see that pig again as long as I live. I created the closure. So I'm not looking for a swine to give me closure. I'm able to create the closure. I'm done. That's it. It's over. I'm done. So that in itself gave me closure. If you're still stuck wanting validation from the narc, know that here you are validated. Absolutely you are. And as far as closure goes, you get to control that if you take control of it. Breaking down the abuse and tackling the issues one by one certainly helped me. Guys, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. I hope you guys are having a great narc-free day.